Hey, General Hospital fans. We need to talk because Port Charles just welcomed a brand new baby boy into the middle of one of the messiest family situations on the canvas, and I cannot stop wondering if there is still one more major twist coming. Portia Robinson has finally given birth. Curtis Ashford is about to meet that baby and fall even deeper into this emotional tornado. Jordan ended up right in the center of the delivery after helping push Portia straight into labor. And now I have to ask the question that could blow this whole thing sky high. What if Aunt Stella tampered with the paternity test? Before we dive in, go ahead and hit subscribe if you are not already following because this storyline is only getting messier, and if a paternity bomb is still ticking in the background, you know we are going to have a whole lot to break down. So, let's start with the obvious. Portia having this baby should be a joyful moment. It should be simple. It should be about new life, family, healing, and a fresh start. But this is General Hospital, so of course nothing gets to be simple. Not with Curtis acting like a human powder keg, not with Jordan stirring up more conflict than peace, not with Isaiah standing right there in the orbit, and definitely not with Stella hovering around like she has a personal investment in every emotional decision being made. Now, Jordan being involved in the birth is already a lot to process all by itself. After the way she came at Portia, after the blame she was throwing around, after all the tension and hostility, it is honestly wild that she ended up helping deliver the baby. But that is exactly the kind of soapy irony this show loves. One minute there is anger, accusations, and emotional chaos, and the next minute one woman is helping her rival bring a child into the world because the situation has spiraled so far that there is no time for grudges. And yes, it is a good thing Jordan was there in that moment because apparently help took forever getting to Portia. But just because Jordan helped does not mean Portia suddenly owes her trust, forgiveness, or a clean slate. That is where I think some fans may split because there will definitely be people saying Jordan came through when it counted. Fair enough. But it also does not erase the pressure, the stress, and the ugliness that helped trigger this whole moment in the first place. Portia does not have to pretend everything is fine just because Jordan was useful in a crisis. Then we have Curtis, and this is where things get even more complicated. Because Curtis is about to look at that baby boy and feel like this child is the center of his world. That is going to deepen everything for him. His fear, his desperation, his possessiveness, his anger, all of it. He was already panicking about prison, already obsessing over Isaiah, already acting like he was entitled to control how everybody else responded to his violence. So now imagine that same Curtis holding or even just seeing his newborn son. There is no way that does not intensify his determination to avoid consequences and cling to whatever version of family he thinks is still his. And that is exactly why this paternity issue matters so much. Because if Curtis believes that baby is his, then he is going to act accordingly. He is going to feel justified in pushing his way into Portia's decisions. He is going to feel more territorial around Isaiah. He is going to dig in harder in every conflict. But what if the foundation under all of that is not as solid as it looks? What if the paternity result everybody accepted is not the truth? What if the real father is Isaiah and somebody made sure that result never saw the light of day? And if anybody in Port Charles would interfere like that out of sheer certainty that she knows what is best, it is Stella. Let's be honest about who Stella is. She loves deeply, yes. She is loyal to family, yes. But she also meddles. Constantly. Aggressively. She inserts herself, she pushes, she manipulates, and when she becomes convinced that a certain outcome is the right one, she can justify a whole lot in the name of helping. Stella is one of those people who can convince herself that violating boundaries is actually love. That is why this theory does not feel impossible at all. Stella was heavily invested in Curtis and Portia saving their marriage. She wanted it long after they were clearly broken. She wanted it when the trust was gone. She wanted it when the resentment had piled up. She wanted it even when both of them were moving emotionally in other directions. That alone tells you how attached she was to the idea of that marriage surviving, no matter what reality was saying. Then throw the baby into the mix, and Stella's investment only gets bigger. The second Stella knew Portia was pregnant, it was like that baby became the reason in her mind that everything had to be put back together. A child meant family. A child meant obligation. A child meant Curtis deserved another chance. At least that is probably how Stella saw it. And if she already believed Portia and Curtis should stay together, then learning there was a question about who the father might be would have felt like a direct threat to the future she wanted. Because let's not forget, Isaiah was not just some random possibility. Isaiah was the man Portia connected with after things with Curtis fell apart. Isaiah was the man who actually seemed to be stepping into her life in a real way. Isaiah was also very open to the idea that he might be the father. He was not recoiling from it. He was not running. He was not trying to escape responsibility. If anything, he seemed emotionally ready for that possibility, and that would only make him more threatening from Stella's point of view. If Stella looked at that situation and thought, "My nephew is losing his wife, his child, and his place in this family to Isaiah," then that could absolutely have pushed her into action. And let's talk motive a little more, because Stella would not need to see herself as a villain to do something like this. In her own mind, she could justify it 6 different ways. She could tell herself Curtis had already lost enough. She could tell herself Portia owed Curtis after the old Trina paternity situation. She could tell herself Isaiah had no right getting rewarded after coming into the picture when the marriage was collapsing. She could tell herself the baby would be better off connected to Curtis. She could tell herself she was protecting family. That is the dangerous thing about meddlers like Stella. They rarely believe they are doing wrong. They believe they are correcting fate. And access is another big issue here. This is not some random outsider theory. Stella works at the hospital. She is familiar with the environment. She has proximity. She has opportunities that other people would not have. So when you combine motive, history, and access, suddenly this theory starts feeling very so possible. I am not saying it is confirmed. I am saying the ingredients are all there. And on a soap, that matters. Plus, Stella has a track record. That is a huge part of why this works as a twist. We're not talking about a woman with spotless judgment who would have to radically change overnight to do something this extreme. We are talking about someone who has interfered in major life events before because she thought she knew better. She has gotten involved in relationships, hidden things, pushed things, and tried to shape outcomes behind the scenes. So, if the writers wanted to sell a paternity tampering twist, they already have the character history to support it. That is why I keep circling back to the old divorce paper mess. Stella already once meddled in a life-changing legal situation because she did not want a relationship to end. She inserted herself where she absolutely did not belong because she thought she was saving something. If she could do that, then changing or influencing a paternity result is not some giant leap in characterization. It is just a bigger version of the same behavior. And from a story standpoint, this would be huge. Because right now everybody is moving forward based on one accepted truth, that Curtis is the father. Portia told him.
He is emotional about it.
Stella is thrilled. Isaiah is disappointed. That truth is shaping everyone's behavior. Curtis will get more demanding. Portia will have to deal with him as the father of her child. Isaiah will likely be expected to step back, at least emotionally. The entire dynamic changes because of that one result. So, if that result is false, the eventual reveal would blow up multiple lives at once. It would also be classic soap timing to let this sit and simmer. I do not think a reveal like this would come out immediately, even if the writers are planning it. This feels like the kind of bombshell that gets saved for a bigger story moment. Let Curtis settle into fatherhood. Let him start acting high-handed. Let him use the baby as emotional leverage. Let him make demands about Isaiah being kept away. Let Portia try to manage him while still building feelings for Isaiah. Let Stella keep hovering proudly. Then, when the audience has really watched these dynamics harden, that is when you drop the truth and watch everything explode. And there are plenty of ways the truth could come out. A medical emergency is the most obvious one. That is soap gold. The baby needs blood, a donor, a test, a transplant match, something along those lines, and then suddenly the numbers do not add up. Or somebody reruns the test. Or lab paperwork surfaces. Or a suspicious detail finally catches someone's eye. Or Stella herself slips because meddlers always think they are in control until their own emotions betray them. Imagine how devastating that would be. Curtis, already unstable and angry, finds out the child he has bonded with is not biologically his after all. Portia realizes the result she trusted was manipulated. Isaiah discovers he may actually be the father and was robbed of that truth. Stella's whole "I was doing it for family" speech would land like a grenade because nobody would be in the mood to hear her rationalizations. Trina would be pulled into even more family stress just when a new sibling should have been a happy thing. Jordan would probably have opinions on top of opinions. And if this comes out while Curtis is already facing court issues, that would be absolute chaos. From a karma standpoint, it would also be very interesting. Because right now Curtis is acting with so much certainty, so much self-righteousness, and so little remorse that a twist like this would feel like the universe yanking the rug out from under him. He is already planning courtroom games. He is already obsessing over Isaiah. He already thinks he knows exactly who belongs in Portia's life and who does not. So what happens if the one thing he is clinging to most turns out not to be what he thought? That is the kind of story reversal soaps love, because it humbles a character right when they need humbling. And honestly, a lot of viewers would probably eat it up. There is a lot of frustration with Curtis right now. Fans have watched him rage, attack, accuse, and justify behavior that has been way over the line. So if the show wants to inject some major emotional consequences into his story, this would do it. Not because a baby is a prize to be won or lost, but because the lie would force Curtis to confront how much of his current identity and entitlement was built on bad information. It would also make Stella answer for playing God with multiple lives. At the same time, the show could still make it emotionally complex. Even if Curtis were not the biological father, he could still feel deeply attached to that child. That kind of reveal would hurt him, yes, but it would also challenge everyone involved to decide what parenthood really means going forward. So this is not just a cheap shock twist if done right. It could actually create real emotional material for months. The big question is whether the writers want to go there. Because if they do, the clues are sitting right in front of them. Stella's behavior, Stella's history, Stella's access, Stella's bias, Portia's uncertainty, Isaiah's openness, Curtis's current spiral. All of it fits together almost too neatly. And with the baby now here, the emotional stakes are even higher than they were before the birth. That makes any future paternity reveal much more explosive. So yes, I absolutely think it is possible that Stella tampered with the test. I am not saying it is guaranteed, but as a soap theory, it makes a whole lot of sense. And if the truth comes out later, maybe around a bigger ratings period, it would shake up Port Charles in exactly the way this kind of story is built to do. Until then, I expect Curtis to go full proud father mode, Portia to try to hold things together, Isaiah to hover at the edges with more feeling than he can openly show, and Stella to keep smiling like everything worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. But on a soap, when things look a little too neat, that is usually when the mess is only just beginning. All right. That is my take on this possible paternity twist, and why I think Aunt Stella may still be hiding a very big secret.
Let me know what you think.
Do you believe Curtis is really the father? Or do you think Stella may have rigged the test to keep Isaiah out and keep Curtis tied to Portia forever? And if the truth does come out later, whose reaction are you most excited to see? Thanks so much for listening, and do not forget to follow and subscribe so you do not miss the next episode, because if this baby story is hiding one more bombshell, we are definitely going to be talking about it.